What's up guys, your boy's back and better than ever. Last week we covered the Entry Fragger and today we're going over the role of the support. But first, I want to thank everyone who gave feedback on the Entry Fragger video because a lot of work goes into making these videos, and to know that the videos are being well received, it just means everything to me. But as the late Kobe said, job's not finished. And after watching this video, you're going to understand the responsibilities of the role, good legends for the role, and ultimately be the reason why your team wins team fights. So without further ado, my name is Alpha Drew, let's get into it. If you pick the support role because you think the support is easy or has the least responsibilities, then I'm sorry, but you're in for a rude awakening. To be a good support, you have to think and prioritize just as much as the IGL. In fact, your IGL's decisions are highly influenced by how you communicate and what information you communicate to them. And what I mean by that is, your IGL has two major priorities on the list: get the best positioning and figure out the next move. And this is where you come in. Your job is to make sure your position is safe, provide information to your IGL, cover angles for your entry fragger, and in some cases even co-IGL. Let's take a deeper look at what we just covered. The first responsibility listed was making sure your positioning is safe from any flanks or nearby enemies. If your team is trying to get some intel on whether you guys should push a team or not, your job isn't to be looking at the same thing. You have to look at potential flanks or teams trying to take your positioning away. This is a term called by professionals as anchoring. Let's just say you fought for a building or a hill and there's one member left on the enemy team. A lot of times, the whole team will chase the last member and kill them, and only to come back to the hill and realize somebody took it in a few seconds they were gone. Yes, kills were important back then, but especially in today's LP system, one kill isn't worth losing positioning over. So instead, your job is to anchor while they chase down the last member and hold down the fort. If you see another team pushing you, you calm that quickly to your teammates and they stop chasing and come back to you. Now let's assume you have to move from the position you were in and you need to bully a team for their position. This is where playing support can be tricky, so you need to pay close attention here. If your entry fragger is working to close the distance, there most likely will be a point or an angle where they are vulnerable to a flank, or just being prevented from moving forward. Your job is to position yourself in a way where you can hold the angles that would make the entry fragger vulnerable, but also in a way where you're safe from other angles. And this is where the tricky part comes into play. The angle you take to cover them needs to ensure you're safe from other angles and also be close enough to move in on any damage the entry fragger deals, which leads us to our next point. As a support, you need to make sure you're doing just that. There's a term what we like to call as wolf packing. Ideally, as a support, you should always have someone you're sticking close to at all times, ready to trade downs with them. If someone is swinging your teammate, then you swing on them. And the biggest part of it all, following up on the damage. A lot of times when you're the entry fragger and you do your job, you're going to have to fall back. And as a support, it's your job to be the second entry fragger and clean up whatever they started. In a few moments, I'm going to go over the legends that are great for the support role, but first, I want to make sure I teach you how to avoid these mistakes. Firstly, you have to understand the role of the entry fragger and IGL sometimes is fulfilled by the same teammate. And sometimes this leads to clashing with teammates because you may want to take a few extra moments to get more information or to check if you might get thirded. And this is why you have to get better at processing information faster. There's nothing more frustrating for a team when one member is not in a position to move up on damage. And secondly, and most importantly, I understand this is easier said than done, but you need to make sure the angles you're taking to cover the entry fragger allows you to be close enough to move in when the time comes for a team fight. I cannot stress this enough. Alright, now for the legends that are great for the role. And the ones that come to mind are in completely different classes and each one excels at support in different ways. First up, we have Stinky Boy himself, Caustic. I've played Caustic for a couple of seasons and I can say not only is he good at anchoring, but he's great at stalling fights when someone's low, and especially great with holding off third parties. Partnered with the Prowler, if somebody's hurt by your gas, those Prowler shots will melt anyone. Second on the list is Newcastle. The fact that he can literally ult to any teammate is perfect for someone who is holding angles and looking to get back to their team quickly. But what makes him shine is the way he reses down teammates. In fact, in Season 15, there was a night where myself, Twisted HQ, and its High IQ ran a comp of Seer, Newcastle, and Caustic. We went from Diamond 4 all the way to Diamond 1 and ended with 200 away from Masters. So these aren't just opinions, these are tried and true picks. Now before I continue and I give you the last one, I want you to understand two things. The order I gave you does not mean I prefer one over the other, and it all depends on your playstyle and the time you put into it. Like any role, every legend is significantly different and takes time to master. Now this pick will probably be a surprise, but Seer is a great legend to use as a support. When the Entry Fragger is close and ready to deal some damage, a Seer Q can really seal the deal in a team fight. Not only are you slowed for a short amount of time, but you pretty much cannot use any of your abilities with the Seer Silence for the fight. And if you have a team that's aggressive and likes to finish fights quickly, you may want to try incorporating him into your comp. Now of course, I left out a lot of other legends that can fulfill the role like Watson, Rampart, Gibby, and the list goes on. But to be honest, it's all about what I talked about before. How much time you put into practicing each legend. There's no one way to play the role, and by implementing what we just covered today, you're going to see a change in your gameplay and how quickly you rank up in the coming seasons. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and if you missed the Entry Fragger video, you definitely need to watch it. So with that said, be safe, stay healthy, later guys.